Your room's too quiet, but you're not alone. Welcome to Mystery Files, where the dark breathes your name. Step inside, or it'll pull you through. The summer heat in Chandler, Arizona was a living thing. A beast that pressed against your skin and made the air shimmer like a fever dream. I was 17, still tethered to my parents' house, a sprawling suburban relic with too many windows and a front door that always felt flimsier than it looked. My room was my sanctuary, a cave of blue LED lights and the hum of my gaming PC, where I'd sink into Call of Duty. Black Ops for hours, especially during those unbearable months when stepping outside felt like walking into an oven. My parents were gone again, some conference or vacation, I never kept track, and I was the last kid left in the house, a fact that used to feel like freedom but was starting to curdle into something else. That Friday night, school was a distant memory. I'd submitted a paper just before the deadline, the kind of half-assed essay you write when you're already mentally checked out. My mom had left a shopping list and a wad of cash on the kitchen counter, her handwriting sharp and commanding, "Whole Foods, get everything, show receipt." My dad's voice echoed in my head, "Earn your keep, kid." So I dragged myself to my beat-up Camry, the one with the squeaky brakes and the faint smell of old fries, and drove to the store. The sun was setting, painting the parking lot in shades of bruise purple, and the heat clung to me even as I stepped into the air-conditioned glow of Whole Foods. The store was quiet, too quiet. The kind of stillness where you can hear the fluorescent lights buzzing like trapped insects. I grabbed a cart, my sneakers squeaking on the polished floor, and started checking off Mom's list. Organic kale, almond milk, quinoa, stuff I'd never eat but always bought. That's when I noticed him. He was in line behind me at the checkout, a guy maybe in his 30s, wiry, with a face that looked like it had been carved from wax and left too close to a flame. His eyes were too wide, like he was trying to drink in every detail of the world, and they locked onto me as I scanned a jar of artisanal honey. "Expensive taste, huh?" he said, his voice low but sharp, like a blade scraping against stone. I forced a smile, the kind you give to strangers when you don't want trouble, and mumbled something about my mom's list. He didn't stop. He kept talking about the honey, the weather, the way the store smelled like lavender and lies. Even as I bagged my groceries, his voice followed me, relentless, like a mosquito you can't swat away. I stayed polite, because that's what you do, right? You don't make a scene. But his attention felt wrong, like a spotlight pinning me in place while the rest of the world faded to black. "Have a good one," I said as I grabbed my bags and headed for the door, my heart beating a little faster than it should have. Outside, the parking lot was a sea of shadows, the streetlights flickering like they were on their last breath. I loaded the trunk, slammed it shut, and slid into the driver's seat, locking the doors before I even realized why. As I pulled out, I glanced in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see him standing there, watching. The lot was empty, but the hairs on my neck didn't believe it. Back home, I hauled the groceries inside, the house swallowing me in its familiar silence. The kitchen clock ticked too loudly, and the windows reflected only darkness, like the world outside had vanished. I locked the front door, then unlocked it, because who breaks into a house in a neighborhood like this? That was my first mistake. I texted Johnny, my gaming buddy, to hop on Call of Duty, and soon we were deep in Team Deathmatch, my noise-canceling Logitech headset sealing me off from reality. The blue glow of my room felt safe, a bubble where nothing could touch me. Johnny's voice crackled through the mic, all bravado and bad jokes, and for a while, I forgot the guy at the store, the heat, the empty house. 2 hours in, my stomach growled, and I told Johnny I'd be back after dinner. Downstairs, the kitchen was a different world. Cold tiles, sharp edges, and a fridge that hummed like it was whispering secrets. I boiled pasta, the steam curling around me like a ghost, and sat at the counter, scrolling through my phone. That's when I heard it. A thump, heavy and deliberate, from upstairs. My fork froze halfway to my mouth. The house was old, always creaking, but this was different, too solid, too close. I tried to laugh it off. A pipe, maybe. A book falling off a shelf. But my pulse didn't buy it. I stood, my chair scraping against the floor, and called out, "Tristan?" My brother's name felt stupid on my tongue. He wasn't even in town. But the silence that answered was worse. It wasn't just quiet, it was heavy, like the air itself was holding its breath. I crossed to the front door and locked it, my fingers fumbling with the deadbolt. The living room stretched out before me, shadows pooling in the corners, and the staircase loomed like a throat waiting to swallow me whole. Back in my room, I tried to shake it off. I put my headset on, texted Johnny, and dove back into the game. The screen was my anchor, the gunfire and explosions drowning out the unease. But halfway through a match, something pulled my eyes to the doorway. The hallway beyond was dark, save for a single nightlight casting a sickly yellow glow. My door was cracked open, just enough to let the blue light from my room spill into the void. I hadn't noticed it before, but now I couldn't unsee it. The crack was pure blackness, like a tear in the world. I stared, my fingers hovering over the keyboard, waiting for my brain to explain it away. Nothing moved, but the darkness felt alive, like it was staring back. I forced myself to focus on the game, but the feeling grew. A prickle at the base of my skull, a certainty that I wasn't alone. Johnny was yelling about a sniper, but his voice felt distant, like it was coming from underwater. I glanced at the doorway again, and this time, the crack wasn't black anymore. It was clear, the hallway visible, as if something had moved out of the way. My heart slammed against my ribs. I spun around, instinct screaming, and there he was, on my bed. The guy from the store, sitting ramrod straight, hands on his thighs, his head tilted just enough to catch the blue light. His eyes were too big, too bright, and his lips twitched like they were fighting a smile. I screamed, scrambling onto my desk, my monitor crashing to the floor, papers and soda cans scattering like shrapnel. "What do you want?" I shouted, my voice cracking. He didn't move, but his smile grew, splitting his face into something that wasn't human. Teeth glinted, too many, too sharp. "Can I play?" he asked, his voice a stuttered hiss, like a radio stuck between stations. I bolted, my sneakers slipping on the hardwood as I tore into the hallway. Halfway down, I stopped, my breath ragged, and looked back. The bed springs creaked, and he stepped into the doorway, his silhouette wrong, too tall, too still. "Can I play?" he said again, louder, the words crawling into my skull. I stumbled downstairs, grabbing the landline and a kitchen knife, my hands shaking so bad I nearly dropped both. "Get out! I'm calling 911!" I screamed, backing against the counter. Footsteps followed, slow and deliberate, each one a hammer against my nerves. He appeared at the bottom of the stairs, his head tilted, his smile gone but his eyes burning. He walked past the kitchen, past me, and out the front door, the hinges groaning as it swung shut behind him. I slammed the door, locked it, and sank to the floor, the phone clutched to my chest. The house was silent again, but it wasn't empty. I could feel it, his presence lingering, like a stain that wouldn't wash out. I called my parents, my voice barely holding together as I told them what happened. Mom was furious, Dad practical, telling me to check the house for missing items. Nothing was gone, but that didn't matter. The image of him on my bed, the way he'd watched me through the crack in the door, it was burned into me, a nightmare I couldn't wake from. I never left the door unlocked again, but it didn't help. Every night I'd check the hallway, half expecting to see that crack of blackness again, to hear that voice asking to play. The house didn't feel like mine anymore. It felt like his.